8 decades, the US dollar has been the linchpin of global trade and finance.
100,000 time water.
The modern world was built on it. But today, not everyone is confident in its future. The greenback became the global reserve currency after the Second World War. Investors saw America as a source of safety and security.
It is for the millions who want to put their savings to productive use that the New York Stock Exchange exists.
It became dominant in trade and financial markets. US Treasuries were a safe haven, and the Federal Reserve gradually gained independence, producing confidence. Half a century ago, nearly 90% of foreign currency reserves globally were held in US dollars. Today that's fallen to just under 60% as reserve managers have diversified into other currencies and gold. Over the past year in particular, investors have become much keener to hedge their exposure to dollars. This has been fueled by the unpredictable nature of economic policy under President Donald Trump.
We give so much and we get so little in return.
And by America's vast and growing public debts. Trump's announcement in April 2025 of tariffs on virtually all of America's trading partners was followed by a big fall in the greenback as investors priced in new risks. Almost a year on, the dollar has yet to recover. It is hard to stop using dollars though. The currency has the tremendous advantage of network effects. The more people use it, the more others want to use it too. But anxiety about America's fiscal and monetary trajectory is growing. That will continue in 2026 as Trump gains influence over the Federal Reserve.
Am I allowed to appoint myself at the Fed? I'd do a much better job.
Lots of countries resent the power the dollar grants the US over the global financial system. China has moved a lot of its trade into its own currency. The less a country depends on the dollar, the less it must fear American financial sanctions and influence. Even Europe now fears depending too much on American payments firms, and it's trying to build out more of its own financial infrastructure. Dethroning the dollar is exceptionally hard. The greenback's dominance is entrenched and won't disappear overnight. But dominant currencies have been displaced before. If America continues to behave erratically, its grip on the global financial system will eventually slip. So what could take the dollar's place? The euro might seem like a strong contender, as it is backed by a large economy. It is the common currency of 21 sovereign states and has a central bank whose independence is guaranteed by treaty, reducing the risk of inflation. Because the Eurozone has so many governments who can refuse changes to the currency bloc, the risk of unpredictable economic policy is low. But despite this, the euro has struggled to gain ground as the world has diversified away from the dollar. It remains a solid but distant runner-up. The Eurozone doesn't produce enough safe debt because haven markets like Germany's are simply too small, and there is a constant risk of a crisis in the most indebted countries.
We know it's very difficult. We are unluckily paying for past mistakes.
Another option could be the Chinese yuan. China has the world's second biggest economy and would like its currency to play a bigger role. But progress in internationalizing the currency has been halting at best. This is partly because of China's opaque and authoritarian government, and partly because China controls the movement of capital, creating doubt for investors about whether they will always be able to get out what they put in. Some say digital currencies could eventually replace the dollar. But at present, they are either highly volatile, like Bitcoin, or linked to the dollar or another currency, like stablecoins. All this means that if the dollar comes to look unsafe, it's unlikely that any single currency would replace it. More likely is a multipolar system of competing blocks, each with its own risks. For a financial system built on the stability of the greenback, that would be a seismic change.